Hey everyone, Mr. MC here. This is a guide for Yamagiwa Miyabi with the Nissan GTR GT3. Let's get this started. Your first braking point is just after you pass the 50-meter mark. Brake hard for just a moment, then slowly start to ease off on the brakes. Try to stick to the inside of the turn as much as you can, and just before you start to point towards the yellow and white sign on the other side of the track, you can start to fully accelerate. These uphill S's can be taken at full throttle. Just make use of the curves as that will help your car rotate around these turns a bit more. Just like the first turn, you want to start to brake just after you pass the 50-meter mark. This is similar to the first turn, except the apex is a bit later. So you want to do some throttle control just so you can hit the apex and get a clean exit out of this turn. Bring yourself to the left, and you'll be using this first line on the left, which is the 150-meter mark, as your braking point. Brake as much as you can in a straight line, then bring yourself down to first gear. When you're on first or second or even third gears, you want to be very careful with how you apply the throttle. So carefully accelerate and brake before the curb on the right ends. Bring yourself to the inside while staying on third gear, and be very gentle with your throttle input as you exit the turn. Then these S's can be taken at full throttle as well. Bring yourself to the right, and just after this next sector starts, that is when you start to brake. You will be braking hard for a tiny moment, quickly start to ease off on the brakes, and stick to the inside of the turn. Before you start to pass the flags that are on the left, you can then start to fully accelerate. Once again, bring yourself to the left, and just after the gray and yellow barriers on the left start, you will start to brake as much as you can. Just like the previous hairpin, you want to bring yourself down to first gear and just be very gentle with your throttle input. Eventually, you want to go into second gear, straighten out the car, then go into third gear, and so on. Your next braking point is just before the 35R riding on the ground ends. Try to stick to the inside of the turn and make sure you straighten out the car as you start to exit the turn. And once again, just be very gentle with your throttle input. Now for this final chicane over here, you want to start to ease off on the throttle as you make the right turn, then start to brake as the curb on the right ends. Make use of the apex. Carefully start to accelerate your way out. Then bring yourself to the left and start to brake before you reach the 50-meter mark. Brake hard for a moment, slowly ease off on the brakes, and bring yourself to the inside of the turn. Carefully start to accelerate your way out, and once your car is straightened out, you can then start to fully accelerate. But that is all for the lap guide. Let's go ahead and quickly talk about the strategies. So for this race, the tires are going to be something that you really need to worry about because the tire wear is a ×15, so these tires are gone really fast. The racing medium tires, at least for me, they last 3 laps, and at that point, if you try to go 4 laps with really worn racing medium tires, then you're basically asking for trouble. So for racing medium tires, use them for maximum 3 laps. And racing hard tires, you only want to use it for 2 laps. The pit stop sequence, as you see here, is really short, which is going to make a 2-stop viable. With 8 laps that we have to do for this race, you can do 3 laps on racing medium tires, then 2 laps on racing hard tires, and then another 3 laps on the racing medium tires. That way you get the tire requirements out of the way, and you have more time spent with the racing medium tires than the racing hard tires. If you end up starting in the back, you can start on racing hard tires. That way you do your 2 laps with them, get those out of the way, and the next time you come to the pit stop, you switch on over to racing medium tires, and then you'll be doing the same thing when you go in for your final pit stop. Make sure you try not to slide around as that's going to really affect your tires. Don't forget that the tire wear rate is a times 15, so even just sliding around a little bit can be really punishing for your tires. Interestingly, there does seem to be a good mix of cars appearing in this race, but one notable car that is making its ways through the top 10 times and on the races themselves is the Nissan GTR GT3. This car is pretty darn fast, but one of its problems is that it's not that good when it comes to turns, and you also have to be super careful when you're accelerating out of low speed turns. So if you're thinking about the GTR, just be aware of that. And that is pretty much it for the guide. Also, I just want to give a huge thanks to all of you for the amazing support lately. We just hit 4,500 subscribers, and I mean, that's just crazy. Still speechless about it, but yeah, so I'm gonna keep that short and sweet. So I'm gonna go ahead and sign off now. So this is Mr. MCA wishing you a good race, and I'll see you in the next video.